Hey everyone. The other day I just finished Desperation by Stephen King, and it was my 50th Stephen King book that I have ever read. I have read 50 Stephen King books now, which is kind of just fucking mind-boggling. So, what I thought would be a good way to celebrate that milestone would be to do a top 10 list on my favourite Stephen King books. And these can include just any Stephen King book. It can be fiction, non-fiction, short story collection, novels, novella collections, just whatever. And basically, so this week I'm going to be doing a top 10 favorites. Next week I'm going to be doing a top 5 least favorites. And then the week after that I'm going to be doing a ranking 50 Stephen King books video where I just rank every single Stephen King book that I've read from worst to best. So I'm really excited to do that over the next few weeks. I can't wait to talk about some of my favourite books today. I'm really looking forward to talking about the books that I don't like, and I'm just looking forward to talking about every single book that I've read of his. And overall, I just can't wait. So this is just my current list. This is apt to change in the future. And there's no real criteria for this video either. These are just the ones that I love the most. I'm going to talk about why I love them so much. And it's pretty refined, at least now that I've read 50. There's nothing like, all of these books I love unabashedly, and I'd say I can't pick a flaw in any of them. But, let's just go ahead and get into it. So coming in at number 10 on my list, we have a newer release, and that is Revival. Revival is, in my opinion, one of Stephen King's most underrated books. Not a lot of people have read it. And the people who have read it are kind of split into two halves. There's people that love it and there's people that hate it. And I'm obviously one of those people that love it. It's a really unique book for King because it's quite short, as you can see. It's not like, tiny, but it's not very long. And it spans this whole man's life, which is really incredible. Like, it's just this guy, he's like a 60-year-old man just telling us his life story. So yeah, this whole book spans about 6 decades. I'm not going to say too much about what this book is about because I think that it's better to go into it blind because as I said, it's kind of just like this guy's life story and some really fucked up shit happens. I will say though, there are a lot of religious themes in here. It's a very critical analysis on God and religion in general, and I think that was just really interestingly and well explored. This book has some amazing horror in it, especially towards the end of this book. This is one of those books where you read it and you're just never gonna forget it. Like, oh my god, this book is fucked. The horror just sticks in my head. And I think it's probably his scariest book, like, ever. Honest to God, I think this might be his scariest book. I just find it so terrifying. There's a really cool music side to this book too, where it just, like, he's obviously done his research, and as someone that loves music and loves playing the guitar and just all that shit, this book taps into that really well, and there was a lot of cool just moments where I was like, oh, yes, that's so cool. And overall, just the characters were so great in this book. They were so well developed and rounded off. It just flew by. I was really invested in Jamie's story. As I already mentioned, the ending was just jaw-dropping, and I can't really pick a flaw with this book. I just love it so much. It's great. It's one of his best new releases. Coming in at number 9 on the list, we have The Wastelands, which is the 3rd book in the Dark Tower series. Now, full disclosure, I haven't read the full Dark Tower series yet. I'm kind of doing this extended read-through, kind of like my own extended read-through based off of like extended view lists that I've seen on YouTube and just on the internet in general. So I'm trundling my way through the Dark Tower series, but I'm reading a whole bunch of other books too. Well, actually, that's a point. I will make a video on that in the future. Once I've finished the Dark Tower series, I will make a video showing you what order I read the books in and which companion novels I read with the Dark Tower series. Anyway, I'm getting off track. This book is fantastic. It's 600 pages, so it's not like, massive, but it's relatively big. But it's just action-packed for the whole entire book. It just starts off with a bang, and it just goes and goes and goes, and it just does not stop. I think the character work in this book is just some of the best. The drawing of the three, you got introduced to the characters, but this is the one when you're really like with the characters and you're going on the journey to the tower. And it is just fantastic. The way they interact, the way they talk is just hilarious. I think I just love these I love these characters. There's a whole plethora of unforgettable scenes in this book. It starts off with this unforgettable scene. There's this part like in the middle of the book, which is just like, I can't even talk about it. Jesus. Oh my god, it is so wacky and crazy. And then there's multiple parts throughout it, and then it just bangs to a close with such a good ending. It kind of ends on this cliffhanger, and it is just exhilarating. You're just reading and you're just flicking the pages trying to see what happens, and then it just ends, and your heart is just racing. I was on a fucking high from reading this book, and that doesn't happen too often when you're actually left for like, half an hour after finishing a book. You're just like, oh my god, holy shit, holy shit, holy shit. At number 8 on my list, we have a super underrated book, but obviously I love it. It's a really damn good book, and it is Needful Things. Needful Things is it's big. It's a chunky book, but oh my god, this fucking book, so goddamn good. Anyway, I think that one of the best parts of any Stephen King book, and he does it to his absolute best in this book, is the world building. This takes place in Castle Rock, and just over the course of this novel, you just get to know everyone in Castle Rock. You get to just know every street corner, every street name, every location, and just watching it just fucking descend into chaos is so much fun. It is so scary, and it is just one of the most enjoyable Stephen King books. I would almost go as far as to say this is the most enjoyable Stephen King book. I don't really know how to describe it. I guess I'd call it like Popcorn King, where you just have just brainless fun. This book also has, if you've seen my top 10 favourite Stephen King villains, it has my favourite villain in Leland Gaunt. He's just so creative. He's just got so much ambiguity about him, who he really is, and the kind of hints that it leaves us is just creepy. I'm not going to get into it, obviously, but it is scary. And this book is also a slow burn too. For the first maybe third of this book, probably more like the first quarter, it just takes its time just devoting the characters and the town just time to develop. And by the time you know everything in perfect detail, it just goes... This is one of his most chaotic books. The carnage is gruesome. There is so many times I'm just reading this book and I would just visibly yell, oh fuck! It is a long book, as I've said. This is like an 800-page book, and this edition has kind of small print. But it is so engrossing. I could not put this book down. I was just in awe of what Stephen King was putting these characters through, what was happening, and just, oh my god. It's so wacky and memorable. There's just so many parts of this book where it's just like, it's almost cartoonish, but it is so fun. It is so fun and so weird and so creepy and out of this world that I love it. I love it. Now at number 7, we have It. Now, there's just, what can I say about It that hasn't been said already? This book has arguably Stephen King's best characters. Like Needful Things, the world building is just amazing. I think that just every word in this book is needed. Honest to God, that might be a bit of an unpopular opinion, but I don't think that this book is too long. I think it's just worth every single page. As you can see, it is fucking huge. But just, oh my god, the way it just gets you to know these people and the way they grow up and develop and just regather, and oh my god, it's so well done. It's so good. There's just, I can't say enough good things about this book. The town of Derry is just, I wouldn't say my favourite Stephen King town, but it is so iconic. I love being there. The two storylines in this book merge so well. Like, I'm just reading, I'm just like, he makes it not confusing. There's two things happening at once in this book, and it just weaves together perfectly. And I think it just has so many memorable scenes, so many memorable scares, but I think just the best part of this book is the way the characters just hang out over the summer break, and it is so... It feels real, the way they speak. They're annoying little shits. And that's what I like, is that they are 11-year-old, 12-year-old kids, and that they speak like 11, 12-year-old kids. It's just so real. And this is another unpopular opinion, but the ending just doesn't bother me at all. I think it's pretty well done. I don't think this book is about the ending. It's more about the journey. I'm not going to say the ending is perfect by any means, but overall, like, I just wouldn't change a thing about this book. I just think it's marvelous. At number 6 on my list, we have another classic, and that is Pet Sematary. Pet Sematary is easily just one of the most terrifying, fucked books just ever written. There's just times in this book where I couldn't read it. I had to bloody put it down because it's just so unnerving and unsettling. It just, oh God, it is amazing. It has fantastic characters. The whole family in this book is just great to read about. They just feel real. And I can't speak about this book, obviously, because if you haven't read it, you gotta go read it without knowing too much. But it has so much great, just world building for where they live. They live out in this isolated road, and every time you pick it up, you just feel like you're there. It is so shocking. Like, the stuff that happens in this book is just, you're reading it and you're like, shit, he went there. I think the ending is perfect. It is so good. I read, like, the last 100 pages of this book is just unbelievably horrifying and just introduces such terrifying concepts. It's paced perfectly. I never got bored when reading it. I found it just to be basically just perfectly written. Everything was clear in my mind when reading it. And another thing about this book is the way grief is discussed. It's discussed really, really well and really, really heavily, which makes it a bit of a bloody tough read sometimes, but it is just well worth it. It's one of my absolute favorites. It's a favorite amongst constant readers, and it absolutely deserves to be. Pet Sematary is number 6. Number 5 is another favorite amongst constant readers, and it is The Stand. Now, this book is cute. Like, I hold this and it just lags because it's so goddamn heavy. This book has a super interesting and compelling concept that is handled extremely well. It's not like, an overly original concept, but it is just done so well. Like, this book's split into 3 parts, and the first part of this book is just terrifying and so bloody well written. This book is long. I can't even hold this thing. It is long, like really damn long. It has a real epic feel to it, just with all these characters just coming, just this battle between good and evil in just this terrifying post-apocalyptic world. It's just fucking amazing. Just all the characters, the way they all meet their arcs, I think is all just done perfectly. I think it has a great villain in Randall Flagg. He's just creepy as shit. I think the ending is amazing. I think it's basically perfect. This book, despite its length, I know some people think that this book is really boring. You know who you are. If you think this book is boring, then you have an opinion. I don't care, whatever. But I never found it to be boring. I found it just to be action-packed. I found trying to just, even just the nothing scenes where nothing's happening, just surviving in this world, to be super compelling and scary and interesting. It has such a great sense of isolation and emptiness, and it has one of the most gripping and best openings that Stephen King has ever written. The Stand is often considered one of the best books of all time. I think it's one of his best books ever. I don't have anything negative to say about it, and I absolutely fucking love The Stand. Now, number 4 on my list, this may perplex some people, but it is a book that I've just loved ever since I read it for the first time, and I still love it, and that is Christine. Christine is about a killer car. Like, what is there not to like about this book? This book has just incredibly, well-developed characters. I think that they're all just great to read about. Arnie's spiral just into madness is scary, and just you feel so helpless when reading it. You're just like, oh my god, what the hell are they going to do? This book has an interesting structure. Again, it's really long, and like a lot of Stephen King books are split into 3 parts when they're long. The first part is in first person, the second part is in third person, and then the third part goes back to first person again, which I found to be really interesting. I know it threw some people off, but I found it to be a real wave of fresh air. And especially the second part of this book. A lot of the times when Stephen King books are chunky and they're split into 3 parts, the second part can drag. But I actually think that the second part of this book is the best part, because we're watching just multiple perspectives of this car just going ape shit. And it is so just incredibly violent and gory. Like, again, it's just one of those, like, oh my fucking god books when you're reading it. You're just like, Jesus. The music references are really cool, and it has just such a great ending too. It's just a really... Actually, I won't go into it, but it's just... It has a fantastic ending. And overall, I think Christine is a super, super underrated book. I know a lot of people do like it, but honest to God, I don't feel like I see many people saying it's one of their absolute favourites. But Christine, one of the best books of his, in my opinion. Now we're getting into the top 3, and this next book that I'm about to talk about is one that I don't think I'm trying to think, I don't reckon I've ever talked about this book on this channel. I might have, maybe? I don't think I have. Anyway, let's just get into it. Number 3 on my list is The Dead Zone. This book, I think it might have his best characters that he's ever written. Johnny Smith in general is just such a likable, everyday, normal motherfucker, and it's... Oh, God, how the hell does he make you feel so attached to these people? Like Johnny and fucking Sarah and his dad and bloody Sheriff Bannerman, and then it's just so well done. And this is the first book that takes place in Castle Rock too. So you really it's where you start to get a sense of the world. This book also has a seriously interesting concept too, which I actually don't like, because on the blurb of this cover, it kind of like goes a little bit too into detail about what it's about. But if you don't know what this book's about, just go into it, just read it, just go along with it. I think it's perfect. I don't think there's a wasted word in here. I think it's perfectly paced. I think the characters are amazing. The story is kind of disjointed, but it works extremely well for me, and I like the fact that it's super disjointed, because it makes it feel more like you're actually just following this guy throughout his life, rather than it just being, you know, a straight story. This book is devastating, and oh god, it's so good, but it's seriously just devastating, and it is so well written. But it's never like, you know, sad for the sake of sad. It's sad for the sake of just bad luck. And I just think it's one of his best. I know, I'm at a loss for words for this book. There could be, if I reread this book, this could possibly be my favourite Stephen King book. I love this book. It has such a suspenseful and thrilling ending. My heart was beating out of its chest with the ending of this book. And just overall, there's nothing I don't love about this book. And I just... Fuck, it's so good. It is so good. At number 2 on my list, we have another recent release of his, and that is 11/22/63. So there's been books on this list. There's been It and The Stand and 11/22/63. All fan favorites, and all ones that I feel like have some people that are just like, they're fine, but I can't find enough good things to say about this book. It is just incredible. I think that it is almost like the Dead Zone's twinner, which is why I like it so much. I won't go into how, but it's very similar to the Dead Zone in some ways. It's really fast-paced, and you can see this book is fucking huge, but it just flies by for me. And I know that some people will say that it's like, it's bogged down in the romance, but I think the romance is done perfectly. It feels like a natural story arc. It doesn't feel like something that's just been shoehorned in and tacked on. I just think it's so well done. I think the characters, I think Jake and Sadie are two of my favourite Stephen King characters ever. They'd be on par with the characters from the Dead Zone. It's great. The way time travel is handled is fucking perfect. Time travel can get super, super messy sometimes, but this book just handles it super, super well. This book is so suspenseful. There were actually parts when I was just like, I care for these characters too much. I don't think I can keep reading this book because I don't want anything bad to happen to them. That happened when I was reading this book. Oh my god. Anyway, 11/22/63. I can't sing this book's praises enough. It is magnificent. And now, for my favourite Stephen King book ever, and probably always will be, Salem's Lot. I loved this book so much when I first read it. I thought it was fucking incredible. And I reread this book, and I loved it 10 times more the second time round than I did the first time. This has, in my opinion, Stephen King's best world building in the town of Salems Lot. I think it's probably my favourite Stephen King town, just in general. He does a lot of small town books, but this is probably my favourite actual location. I know I said that earlier, I think Revival is his scariest book, and I think that, yes, it still is his scariest, but I think that this book scares... I think this is his best scares, like scare fest, like just horror fest. Revival's scary for different reasons than this. I think he's got some of his best scares. Basically what I'm saying is that I just cannot sing this book's praises enough. I think that it is just incredible in every single way, shape and form I can just possibly dream of. Now, I can't really talk for much longer about this book, and I can't really talk for much longer because my camera is about to die, but this book is fucking incredible in every, I just love it. I love Salem's Lot. The only book that I can think of that might overtake it is The Dead Zone, and basically, Salem's Lot, it's so great. It's so great. I love it. Anyway, that was a really fucking long video, was it not? Yeah, it was. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you agree, if you disagree. Let me know your own top 10 favorites in the comments. I think that I know it was a bit of a repetitive video, just me kind of going, you know, oh, this is what I love, this is what I bloody love about everything. Characters, world building, yada yada yada. What the fuck ever. I love all of these books, and I'll see you all later on in next week's video when I talk about the books that I don't like by Stephen King. Bye.